Do you have any idea what kind of nasties are hiding in your skincare products? Can't believe it's 2022 and clean beauty is still coming at us with this annoying propaganda. I'm not a fan of clean beauty. They just perpetuate a lot of misinformation, fearmonger, otherwise safe, perfectly harmless ingredients. But in today's video, I'm going to further expose the problem with the clean beauty agenda. Do you want to know what the most common, what the most likely adverse reaction your skin can have to the stuff that you put on it, whether it be your cleanser, your moisturizer, your shampoo, perfumes that you buy? Do you want to know what it is? It's contact dermatitis. This is something that can happen to any product. It doesn't matter how clean the marketing is, it can happen to any product. Basically, exactly what it sounds like, a rash that develops as a result of things that come in contact with your skin. There are two types of contact dermatitis: irritant contact dermatitis and allergic contact dermatitis. Irritant contact dermatitis is basically just an ingredient that is irritating to the skin and leads to a rash. Allergic contact dermatitis, on the other hand, your body basically decides that an ingredient it no longer likes, and your immune system has decided that it's going to mount a response to that ingredient anytime it comes in contact with the skin. It doesn't matter if you have been using that ingredient your entire life. If your immune system decides it's a no-go, then from there on out, any product that you use with that ingredient, you're going to develop a rash too. And there are a handful of ingredients that are a lot more common allergens than others. But to be clear, you can develop an allergy to pretty much anything that you put on your skin, but there are some ingredients that are more common allergens in the general population. To give you an idea of how common this is, contact dermatitis is actually the 5th most prevalent skin disease in the United States. And the cost associated with contact dermatitis in the United States exceeds $1.5 billion a year. So it's not cheap. Now, granted, not all cases of contact dermatitis come about as a result of personal care products, which is what we're talking about today, but they do constitute a bulk of those reactions. When we're talking about personal care products, it runs the gamut: lotions, creams, fragrances, shampoos, conditioners. The prevalence of allergic contact dermatitis, though, to personal care products is on the rise. Between 1996 and 2016, the prevalence of personal care product contact dermatitis in the US increased 2.6-fold, and it continues to increase, likely because we are using more and more products. The industry has boomed. We're using a lot more stuff than we once did. Once upon a time, you went to the store, there were maybe 1 or 2 different creams. People didn't use a whole lot of personal care products. So the clean beauty movement loves to sweep in and make this claim that natural is better or safer, and that you should only be putting things on your skin that you need, nothing more. A recent study published in JAMA Dermatology examined 1,651 quote natural personal care products sold at retailers including Target, Whole Foods, and Walgreens between January and March of 2022. So these are products that are being heavily marketed to consumers as quote safer because they are all natural. 94.2% of them had at least one common contact allergen, and 89.5% of them had at least one, if not more, of the 100 most prevalent contact allergens. Only roughly 6% of them had no contact allergens. Now, of course, people are free to choose whether they want to use a product marketed as natural over one that's not. One limitation you could argue with this study is that it didn't compare the number of common allergens in quote natural products to quote unnatural products. But if you think about it, how would they even go about that? Because the term natural is not regulated. So brands can use that term natural on their products if they want. And it doesn't necessarily mean that products not marketed as natural couldn't get away with the same line of marketing if they wanted to. How would you even begin to tease that out? It's not as though the label natural it has any rationale when we're talking about personal care products. The majority of the products contain fragrances and botanicals. Fragrance, as a side note, is one of the most common contact allergens, especially in personal care products. Even personal care products that are labeled as fragrance-free, they actually can still contain fragrance because they can call the product fragrance-free if the fragrance ingredient is serving as another purpose. So say, for example, the ingredient happens to have antimicrobial properties, but it's also fragrance. Well, they can label it fragrance-free. Fragrance-free isn't a regulated term either. So they're free to use that, and natural, those terms don't necessarily mean anything, but to the consumer, they think that it's somehow going to be a safer product. So this study illustrates that the products that are labeled as natural and are marketed and have led consumers to believe are somehow safer. As I said, the most common adverse problem that can arise as a result of putting stuff on your skin, personal care products, is going to be a contact dermatitis. And these natural skincare products, natural, I say in quotes, because again, it doesn't really mean anything, have many of the common allergens in them. So you can still develop this common overriding problem that is the most likely problem to arise as a result of putting stuff on your skin. Now, I'm not trying to make you guys afraid of these natural skincare products. If you want to continue using them, by all means, but don't fool yourself into believing that they are safer. The same common adverse effect that can happen with any product can still happen with these natural products. Here's the thing, when it comes to quote natural ingredients, the truth is that botanic ingredients are not just one ingredient. They're actually hundreds of chemicals. In reality, if you didn't use the natural ingredients, you could formulate a product with far fewer, quote, chemicals. So you could end up with a product that had fewer chemicals that you would be exposing yourself to. Now, to be clear, I am not a chemophobe. Water is a chemical. Chemicals are in everything. Natural things are made of chemicals. For example, aloe leaf juice. If you look at the actual ingredients in aloe leaf juice, it has a ton of ingredients. Creating a product with 3 to 4 botanic ingredients ends up with a final formulation that's gonna have over 200 different chemicals in it. So if you are truly wanting to put fewer chemicals on your skin, you would stay away from botanic ingredients. You would stay away from the quote natural stuff, and you would gravitate towards synthetic things that are refined and purified and have fewer chemicals in them that could potentially cause either an allergic contact dermatitis or an irritant contact dermatitis. You're not just getting one thing when you get aloe leaf juice. You're getting hundreds and hundreds of different chemicals, which again, I'm not afraid of, but if you have a contact dermatitis to one of those ingredients, how are you going to know what it is? It becomes very tricky. Why do brands put botanicals in their products anyway? They do so because 1 or 2 chemicals within the botanical has identified benefit, whether it be anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, skin soothing, moisturizing, hydrating. But rather than isolate out that known beneficial compound and include it in their formulation, they take the entire botanic. Why? Because clean beauty has drilled into people's head that if they don't recognize the name, if they can't pronounce the name, then it must be bad. So now we have a brand putting in a botanic extract that's got tons of chemicals. Rather than just purifying out the individual active ingredient and including that in their formulation, brands are going to use the entire botanical extract because the botanical extract name looks a lot more appealing on the ingredient list than the individual beneficial compound as a result of the clean beauty brainwashing that has gone on that, if you can't pronounce something, it must be bad. We don't want chemicals. It's so backwards though, because by putting a botanic ingredient in the product, you are exposing your skin to far more chemicals than you ever would have had they just isolated out the 1 or 2 beneficial components. The natural claim really perpetuates this false fixed belief that natural ingredients are safer, they're purer, and they're better than quote unquote chemical ingredients. Natural ingredients are full of chemicals and are no more helpful, less harmful, safer, less irritating than the individual ingredient on its own. In fact, it would be better if brands would lean towards more synthetic ingredients. Why? Because you're able to purify out the beneficial component, you're able to modify it to potentially remove harmful aspects of it that are more likely to trigger sensitivity and irritation. You're more likely to hone in on those benefits to create a product that is effective yet safe. And it's more transparent so that if somebody develops an allergy, because as I said at the beginning of the video, you can develop an allergy to anything, well, it's a lot more clear cut from the ingredient list. Oh, I'm allergic to that, I have to avoid it. As opposed to all of this gray territory of, the more chemicals, the more complicated the name, it must be dangerous. It's not rooted in truth. Synthetic ingredients likely are safer than natural ingredients because you can purify out the beneficial compound and modify it to be less likely to cause harm for people. And again, it's a lot more transparent. You know what the ingredient is, and if you do develop a problem to it, well, it's a lot easier for you to avoid it. I mentioned allergic contact dermatitis and common allergens. If you develop allergic contact dermatitis, the way you find out what you're allergic to is to do something called patch testing at a dermatologist's office, where we put the individual ingredients on your skin, on your back, leave them on there, and then at 48 hours and 72 hours, we look to see if you have a reaction to those allergens. But here's the problem. When you have these botanic extracts, botanic ingredients that may or may not contain what you're allergic to, it becomes very difficult for you to avoid stuff that you're allergic to once you find out. Say, for example, you develop an allergy to allantoin. Allantoin is a moisturizing ingredient. It's found in many moisturizers. If you develop an allergy to that, wouldn't it be nice if you could just read ingredient labels and see, oh, allantoin, I can't use this, I have to avoid it? It'd be nice if it was that straightforward. But because brands use botanic extracts and they don't list the individual chemicals within the botanic extract because they don't have to, well, somebody who's allergic to allantoin, they don't know that allantoin may be present in this naturally present in this botanic extract, and it's not going to be listed on the ingredient list, and they're going to develop a problem to it. It becomes very tricky for this group of people. And this is not an uncommon problem. Take home point of this video, don't fall for the natural fallacy. It's like something out of Alice in Wonderland, Mad Hatter Tea Party. Say that fewer chemicals on your skin. If you really want to put fewer chemicals on your skin, you'll use synthetic. I mean, as opposed to a botanic that's got a ton more. All right, y'all, so that is an exposure of the clean beauty movement. Not a fan. You know, I do like a lot of skincare products that call themselves clean, but I don't align with those views that, you know, a product is clean because it's inconsistent. Go into Sephora and they have the clean at Sephora, but so now people at Sephora are deciding what is healthy for us. Same thing with a lot of these skincare DIYs using essential oils. People on TikTok, for example, with their DIYs, they'll try and sell you on the idea that creating your own product with a natural essential oil is far less harmful than buying a product that Big Pharma made, even though Big Pharma has nothing to do with moisturizers and creams and stuff, skincare products. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, they'll have you believe that, but essential oils are full of chemicals that are easily degraded into even more irritating, yes, toxic compounds that can cause really bad reactions to the skin. They are far more harmful to you and to your skin than synthetic chemicals. I mean, chemicals are in everything. Water is a chemical. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.